Yellow tape around his body, so fucking homicide.
Oh, hello there. I didn't expect for the camera to start rolling so soon. Anyways though, I'm Nate, as one may assume, and this is my first video. Now, it's already sort of outdated. Yeah, the title and thumbnail say 2025, and I'm sure that some of you are already thinking, well, it's that close to 2026, so why not just post it then? To which my answer is, I'm a lazy ass. And I've had this plan since like April, or maybe even before that, but I've just been caught up with that much. Haven't had enough time or motivation to dedicate to this. Enough about my procrastination habits, however. I'm here because I want to get my foot in the door, and this video will hopefully serve as a solid first impression and a call to arms. Well, I'll explain that a little bit later. For now, however, what of introductions? Well, as stated before, I'm Nate, but what am I? Well, I am an avid railway and gaming enthusiast, digital artist, well, I'm kind of fucking at the moment, so I'm a beginner, story writer, a fan of many things like Five Nights at Freddy's, Warhammer 40k, etc., and of course, now an aspiring YouTube content creator. In saying that, however, do I expect to be great? No. Do I expect for this to immediately blow up? No. I don't ever expect to rise to the likes of, say, Uzelk, Vanos Gaming, or Markiplier. However, as long as I reach even a few thousand subscribers and make people smile, I'll be smiling as well. Yeah, okay, we need to extend the runtime of this video somehow before the important call to action bit. Alright, let's talk about the production of this video and some of the events that led up to this point, shall we? So, the idea for this YouTube channel came about towards the end of 2024. I had just completed my first 2 days aboard the picnic train as a volunteer, and my 18th birthday was just on the horizon. Now, originally I had conceived the video similar to the final product you're seeing now, where I would hope to put myself out there on the internet and put a fundraiser alongside it to help me fund myself a new computer to help replace my aging HP all-in-one. And first drafts wouldn't really begin until about March, if I recall. And when I say drafts, I mean more like thoughts, just getting concepts out there of how I would do. And in the meantime, I started training myself to edit videos through CapCut. I didn't get too far into the process though, as after beginning to write the first version of the script, a little debacle happened. With CapCut specifically, it was a sneaky change to their terms of service. And if I remember correctly, it basically stated that if you used AI to help in your videos, then CapCut themselves owned those clips. So I just said that and declined deleting CapCut, and instead moved the production over to DaVinci Resolve. But yeah, that aging all-in-one that I mentioned before, yeah, that finally decided to kick the bucket in early August after nearly 8 years of long service and being broken for nearly one of them. It finally broke for good. I remember that night too, and it's exactly what the intro referenced. I was playing Team Fortress 2 at about 10 at night, on 2 Fort specifically, I remember it vividly. I was having a grand old time before the computer suddenly blacked out and turned off. I didn't think too much of it. Maybe a thermal shutdown. Maybe I needed to crack it open and have a look. Whatever. I left it until the next morning, but it still wouldn't turn on. It didn't turn on the next day after that, or the next one after that. I opened it, replaced the thermal paste, but still nothing happened. I suspect that it was most likely a motherboard failure. And since the computer was an out of production model, I could no longer find suitable spares. Oh well, the computer wasn't ever truly the same after I brought it into a shady shop one time for a repair. Maybe I should turn that into a short after this. Explain what happened. Never fear, however, because my granddad came in clutch and found a similar model of all-in-one in near mint condition for a good price on eBay. So I snatched that thing up and I've been able to work on that model ever since. However, it was slightly even worse than the last one due to the hardware contained within it. But what's taken so long after that? Yeah, a lot of family bull and other responsibilities dragging me along, combined with a not so healthy dose of procrastination. However, since we were talking about computers just now, what about what I mentioned before, replacing the PC with something better? Well, for that, I plan to collect parts and build my own personal setup. So, for the sake of runtime yet again, why don't we talk about the list of parts that I have for said PC?
Eat bolt gun! For the Emperor!
Ahem. So, parts. What's currently on that list? Well, first of all, I just want to make it clear that I'm not going for some sort of $10,000 god rig. I'd describe it as more of a comfortable $2,000-ish mid-tier rig, of which will be 10 times better than all of the all-in-ones that I've had until this point anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But let's start with that first component. First, and arguably the most important component for function, is the motherboard, of which I have selected to be the Gigabyte B760 Gaming X, with an LGA 1700 CPU socket, Wi-Fi access, etc. I feel like it would be a lovely place to start. And the CPU going into that motherboard will be an Intel Core i5-12600KF. I heard about consistent problems with the 13th and 14th gen CPUs from Intel, so I decided to keep it safe and keep it at 12th gen. But the CPU, regardless, is equipped with 10 cores and can pack 3.7 GHz of power, and for its relatively cheap price, I think it should provide some pretty good performance for what I'm looking for. The cooler going onto that CPU, however, will be the powerful and reliable Noctua NHD15. Not much to say about this one really, it's just a damn good cooler as far as I've heard. What about RAM though? Well, that's going to be 32 gigs across two sticks of Corsair Vengeance DDR5 6000Hz cards. The non-RGB versions, I should say. And the storage to go with it? Well, that's decided to be the Samsung 990 Pro, in either the 2TB or 4TB versions. That's to be decided at this point. And I'm sure that some of you are definitely curious about the GPU that I've chosen for this rig. For that, I have decided on the Intel B580. It's a recent release, and as far as I can tell, it's a relatively affordable and damn good mid-tier option. And I should mention too that I was originally going to go with the Radeon RX 7600, but after comparing performance to price, I just said that honestly. And finally, what about the power supply in the case? Well, for the power supply, I decided on the Corsair RM850E. Provides good and ample wattage, and that should also provide me a bit of wiggle room should I decide to upgrade the machine in the future. And for the case, I've just decided on the simple and humble Fantex XT Pro. I've tried looking at what I can through online websites and such, and as far as I can tell, this combination should be able to get me some damn good performance in games. And so far, I do actually have some progress on the build, but right now I've only got the case, of which I snagged for a bloody good $90, the RAM, and the power supply. Some of you might also be wondering what sort of monitor I'd be getting, and that's a bit in the air at the moment. However, I'm looking for a good and reliable 1440p or 1080p monitor with a simple flat screen, and that's also no smaller than 24 inches. So if you lot have any suggestions, I'm all ears. Or, I guess, eyes, since I'll be reading. Ahem. Alright, so, I've got nothing else to really talk about to fill in the time, so let's get to that call to action bit that I mentioned at the start. Alright, so, in short, my family isn't really in the best spot at the moment. It's a lot of personal I won't really say much for the sake of privacy, but let me just say that it involves some not so good living conditions and some bad actors within the extended family. I've been doing my best to lend a hand here and there while also trying to take care of myself. However, we have a deadline now, and we've got to move out and find somewhere else by April of next year. And you lot probably know better than I do that that time is going to fly like nothing else. And none of us have jobs to support ourselves either. I've been looking, but nobody wants to accept me. Mum's busy being mum, and my dad has a form of MS of which prevents him from getting a job. So we're basically all on government payments. So what's the point in me telling you any of this? Well, as much as I hate to ask others for help, I honestly feel like it's probably the only way at this point. So in the description of this video, you lot will be able to find a GoFundMe page capped at about $5,000. So if you're willing and feeling generous enough, then I would like to please ask for at least a single dollar. Now, everyone has their own situations in life at the moment, so I completely understand if you can't even spare that much. But it will make me all the more grateful to anyone that does actually donate, and on top of that, actually thankful to anyone that's watched up to this point of the video, to be honest. Every cent is a massive help for us, because the money will go towards helping me and the family move out and finally have our own place again. Whether it's towards the house itself or maybe even just a cheap car for ourselves to move around, it will just be a massive help, trust me. And again, massive thanks to anyone that's even watched this far into the video so far. And if you have liked the content, however little there is, then please consider leaving a like and maybe even hitting the subscribe button. And again, if you're really generous, then please consider donating to the GoFundMe while you're at it as well. And if you do, then please comment below this video with your name and or username and how much you donated so I can shout you out in future videos. And finally, if you aren't going to donate, then please perhaps consider sharing around the video instead. Any sort of engagement will be a massive help, especially if others get to see it instead. With all that being said and out of the way though, thank you all to the lovely people that have watched this video through to the end, and I bid you all a lovely day and or night. Alright, so, hello everybody. This is just an editor's note that I'm gonna leave in at the end. I managed to pick myself up a proper microphone, like a little desk one, just before finishing this video, so you guys should be able to expect some far greater, audio quality in the future. I was just dealing with a microphone from a crappy headset, previously, so hopefully this should be a lot better for future videos that I plan on doing. Said videos, mostly TF2 related, in regards to items, etc., and maybe just a few more production type ones, explaining what happened, etc., this and that sort of thing. But, again, thank you to everyone that's watched up to this point, and thank you to anyone that's going to consider donating to that GoFundMe page, and I'll see you a lot later. If there's any suggestions, tips or tricks, etc. that you might want to leave for me in the comments, please do so. I always have open ears for anyone that wants to leave some actually constructive criticism, and I'm always willing to take it on board to hopefully make my content better in the future. So, yeah, talk to you a lot next time. Bye!